Oh, hello. All right, so today, got my spiffy hair here. Had to do something this morning. But yeah, let's go over. Okay, we're gonna build on top of yesterday. Let's jump right into it. We're gonna build on top of semantic tags. Now that we understand what semantic HTML is, I'm gonna present to you this very convenient slide set that will more emphasize the different semantic tags that we have at hand and how they would apply to your HTML document. Okay, so again, it's a very useful reference for semantic HTML, and I call it Semantic HTML Tags Cookbook. So let's get into it. Okay, so technically, we can code everything with a div and a span if we wanted to, but as we saw on our journey with the elf and the guru, okay, if you remember about semantic HTML, if you didn't watch that yet, I recommend watching the presentation on the semantic HTML basics, you want to call it, whatever I titled that presentation. But yeah, I recommend watching that before you look at this one. But yeah, technically you can code everything with a div or a span, but that's not considered good practice, I would say, and not semantic HTML. Okay, so then why? Again, just quick review semantic HTML here. Why don't we want to do everything div? Um, like why don't we want to do that? Again, search engines, bots. Um, Again, it would be hard for them to understand a page if it's just all divs. They don't understand what your content means. So your different tags that you choose, let's say you choose header, nav, main, p, figure, there's a reason HTML came out with these different tags. It's so that you can describe your content better so that tools like search engine, bots, and whatnot, even coders looking at your code can understand more the content of the page. And again, there's nothing limiting you. You can code with div, and style your page, and it'll look exactly the same as if you used your semantic tags. So the thing we're trying to do here when we're using semantic tags is it helps the backend, again, search engines, bots, coders. It just helps make them understand that better, as well as having more clean, manageable code. Okay, so I just mentioned that. Yep, for humans as well, developers looking at your HTML code, it's just so much easier to understand if you have proper semantic tags. Okay, so again, this is a presentation, just like a reference, more of a reference than a presentation, on the various tags you have at your hand and when you would use a particular tag. Okay, so the first kind of tags we're going to look at is for templating your website. So let's say you have a web page, and as a whole, you want to do is build a template. And for most websites, your template is pretty much the same. You're going to have a header section where you put your brand, your branding, as well as perhaps your navigation will usually sometimes be in your navigation or not your navigation will usually be in your header section as well, or maybe near the header section. And then finally, most websites will have a main section, maybe a sidebar and a side, and finally a footer on the bottom. Okay, so most websites follow that same template. So this is called templating tags, or templating your website. Okay, so tags you have for templating are header, nav, main, aside, footer. Okay, again, this was presented or created in HTML5. In original HTML, these tags mostly did not exist, or none of them existed. So HTML5 allowed us to build more or code more semantically HTML pages and files. Okay, so here's an example of marking up a page. You have a header tag here, you have a main tag here, a nav tag here, a side here, and a footer here. Okay, pretty common sense. Here's what the HTML would actually look like. And again, as a coder, if I read your HTML and it looks like this, it's very clear, what you're trying to do here. Versus if this is all div, I can only imagine or guess what the page is about, or even for me to try to edit your code, it would just be a headache. Okay, so here is just clear what each piece of content means on the page. All right, sectioning. So after you do templating, then you want to start, sectioning your main content. So you want to section, let's say, the main content in this block right here. All right, and at your disposal there, you have what's called the section tag. And again, HTML5 introduced this tag. In the past, you had usually you did this with divs, and again, nothing wrong with that. But here we're just being more descriptive now with the section tag. And if you want to visualize, here's what I recommend to all web developers or HTML coders or front-end developers in general is when you walk in your real world settings, okay, start imagining HTML tags on real world settings. For example, if you see a room or an apartment like this, you can see, oh, I can separate this part of the apartment with a section tag with this class name. Oh, I can separate this kitchen over here with this section tag, and I can separate this dining area here with this section tag and with the class name dining room. Okay, so just start imagining HTML in the real world. You see a list, you see a palm tree, okay, you're gonna start seeing now a UL tag and an LI tag for each of those palm trees. All right, or let's say you go to a restaurant and you see the sign, the LED sign for the restaurant name. Okay, now you will see, oh, I can put an H1 tag on there. Okay, so these are the kind of games you want to start playing when you build your semantic HTML skills. Okay, visualizing HTML in the real world. So section is a very good tag for creating different sections within your main content. Okay, so just an example here, this website, yeah, we separate these into sections with a section tag. All right, and then looking at some example codes here. So in the main tag itself, we'll have section tags for each section. And again, if I read this code, it's very clear. Just visually as a developer, I just know what your website is about. And from there, it's just easy to build on top of it, add more HTML if needed, or style it. Very easy to style good semantic HTML. Versus if it's just a bunch of divs wrapped in divs, for me to try to understand how to even start styling that and which tag to start with, like it just becomes a headache. So with semantic HTML, your HTML is just clean, and doing CSS for it is also very easy for the most part. Okay, so again with sections we have a header tag. Okay, so headers you can visualize in the real world again. Let's say you're walking in a bookstore. Okay, each section has a header, the title of that section in that bookstore. For example, here careers or marketing and advertising are two different sections, and the header, of course, is the title. You want to wrap your H1 or maybe your H2 tag here, maybe H1. No, maybe H2. But yeah, you put your H1 or H2 tag inside the header tag itself. And again, here, that's another useful thing with semantic HTML is, it's okay to add tags inside of other tags as long as it's adding more meaning to your content. And in the end, it's just going to help you have more containers to style with. Not that it's something you want to think about ahead of time when you're writing your HTML. Again, don't write your HTML with styling in mind. But the more semantics you pad on top of your HTML, you win-win. In the end, you have more tags to style with. All right. So here again, yep, just an example of using the section and the header tag. Okay, I'm going to try to move quick through this. There's a lot of slides. Okay, next we have an article tag, which is good for, let's say, visualizing the real world. Okay, you're reading a book. Okay, separating to several articles or different post. An article is like a title followed by content for that article. Okay, let's say article in a newspaper. Okay, so if you're looking at a website design, you can identify what may be an article. All right, something with the title and content associated with it. Okay, so at your disposal, HTML5 again is an article tag. And followed inside article tag, usually you'll have, of course, your H tag for your title, followed by some P tags for your content. Okay, yep, here's another potential article. Okay, again, sometimes it's left for interpretation, whether you want to call something an article or not. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people have different opinions. But as long as we're sort of on the same page, then we should be, for the most part, happy engineers working together, writing semantic HTML. Okay, so here's an example of just looking at the code itself. We have our article with, again, the H tag for the title and P for content. Okay, so these tags I just mentioned were kind of big sectioning tags, big blocks. Okay, again, those HTML header, nav, main, aside, footer tags, the section tag itself, the article tags. These are your big containers. And again, in the past, before HTML5, divs were used for this. But nowadays we have more descriptive tags, as I mentioned. Okay, so now let's dive down to maybe smaller tags. Okay, the smaller things, not the big containers, but the smaller things. Okay, and here we have, let's go through them. We have images, figures, and fig caption. Okay, so for example, again, HTML5 added this figure tag with a fig caption tag. And again, let's visualize in the real world, what will we tag up with a figure tag? And we see it all the time when we're reading our textbooks. We have a picture followed by some caption. Okay, so that's the kind of things you would wrap inside a figure tag. All right, so if you're working on a web page and you see a picture and below it is some text related to that picture, right away you can think, oh, hey, I could use a figure tag here with a fig caption. And of course, the image tag itself for the image. Okay, here's just some code of what that looks like. Pretty straightforward. Okay, next, okay, again, this is a topic. The topic of today is just how to use HTML tags properly, semantically, and going over the available semantic tags at our disposal. Okay, so the next kind of semantic tags we have is list, of course, and there's nothing new here. This had always been in existence. So we have our unordered list, we have our ordered list, and then finally we have the LI, the items in the list itself. Okay, so again, to visualize, when would we use a list tag? Okay, and beyond that, when would we use an unordered list tag versus an ordered list tag? Let's visualize it. Okay, so again, my favorite analogy here, for example, if I look at something, I see a row that looks the same, or same type, maybe a row of cars, a row of motorbikes, a row of palm trees here. Okay, then you think of, okay, an unordered list. Okay, the ordering of them don't really matter. They're just, we don't, maybe they do matter, but that's not the main point of them. It's just a list of the same thing. So then we can use an unordered list. And of course, we want to wrap each item with the LI, which is list item tag. Okay, so here's what that code looks like. Okay, so then when will we use an ordered list? Okay, there's some points, when there's a list where ordering matters, like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe you don't specifically style the number, maybe you could even hide the numbers. But here we're saying that the hierarchy or the order of the list matters. So in that case, we want to use an ordered list. Okay, so for example, if you visualize the world, okay, if you're on a track, if you're running on a track and you see, oh, this is lane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then you could start visualizing, oh, I want to put an OL tag on these lanes in this track, and for each lane, I want to put an LI element or tag, okay, because this is an ordered list here. Okay, so for example, let's say John is more important than Harry and Bob is, he's last. So then, okay, I put them in an ordered list here for 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah. All right, then we have, okay, so some other lists here. Okay, again, some more semantic HTML tags at your disposal. Again, you're free to put everything in a P tag or a span or a div, but here we're trying to build our semantic skills so we can make more semantic HTML code. All right, so we have a thing called a definition list, and they are the DL, DT, DD tags. How do we use them? So now let's visualize first. Let's say I'm looking in a dictionary. I see a term followed by the definition. Okay, term, definition, and the list goes down and down and down of term and definition, and that's what a dictionary or a DL list is, a definition list. DT is the term and DD is the definition. Okay, so if you're working on a web page where you see key value pairs, okay, then you can think, hey, it's good to use a dictionary list here. Okay, so just some example code here. All right, pretty straightforward. Orange is sweet, of course. Lemon is sour. Steak is salty. So it's a key value pair. Okay, and definition lists are perfect for that. Okay, tables, for example. When would I use a table? Okay, when would I use a table? And again, visualize it. All right, so table tags at our disposal is the table tag, the TR for a table row, and TD for a column in that row, or cell, each of the cell columns in that row. Okay, so again, visualize. When would I use a table? So for example, if I have a huge bookshelf here, okay, separated like this, science in this column, drama in this column, adventure in this column, and then the rows are separated like this, then I can think right away, oh, the data here is separated in kind of a table, a tabular format. Okay, and that's perfect. Here I can code up this. So if you're walking in a bookstore, you can visualize these tags now. I'm going to wrap the whole bookshelf in a table tag. Each row here, A, C, D, F, G, I, each row in a TR tag, and then each column in a TD tag here. Okay, right? Okay, so don't confuse, okay? In the past, let's say Web 1.0, we have Web 1.0, Web 2.0, Web 3.0. In Web 1.0, people were using tables to lay out their web page. For example, in this left corner, they wanted this, and this bottom right corner, they wanted this. They wanted a two-column design. Okay, but that again, that's not semantic HTML. Here we're using HTML to visually code our page, and that's the wrong way to use it if we're considering using good practices in semantic HTML. So here, the table, you have to think of it more on a data perspective than a visual perspective. So if your data is being separated in a tabular format, then consider using the table tag. Okay. So for example, let's say I have an Excel sheet here where I'm keeping track of animals, fruits, and veggies by columns like this. Then again, that data, it's tabular. So then I would put it in a table here in my HTML. Okay, adding more meaning to text. Okay, so let's say now we're going to focus on HTML tags on the text itself. Okay, adding more meaning to the text, the content. And again, here we have our H tags to specify that this piece of text is a title or a brand. Okay, a title pretty much. H tags are for titles. Okay, again, visualizing that in the real world, I have a newspaper here. Okay, here are all the titles on the newspaper, subtitles, subtitles, titles of subarticles here, and those we can all use H tags. And just a note here, this changed over time, but in the past, W3C recommended only one H1 tag per page. But they were saying on one page there can only be one main topic. But that recommendation has changed over time. The W3C now recommends, or the last time I checked, okay, you can have multiple H1 tags on the same page. And that makes sense because let's say each subarticle here is its own separate article. And the main title of that article should be the top priority, the H1. Okay, the only time you would start using H2 or H3 is if, let's say, within the same article you have subsections, then you would move down the hierarchy and start using H2 for the titles of each of those subsections. But let's say on this newspaper, each of these articles are its own thing, so they each can have their own H1 tag. And now the W3C Last time I checked, says that's okay. Okay, next we have our P tag, just for general text, general content. Okay, so if you have an article with some paragraphs, use the P tag. You have your strong EM small tags for uh, uh, further defining words within a sentence. Okay, these are called your inline tags. So within a sentence, then let's say you want to put more emphasis on a particular word. Then in the past, you would use span, for example, but actually you have more descriptive inline tags for that. For example, the EM tag is pretty obvious. I want to emphasize this word. Okay, again, here don't think about style. Emphasis is just semantically, I want to put more emphasis on this word. For example, if I'm speaking, if I say I have a very strong, or I have a very strong arms, then when I speak, I want to put more emphasis in the strong word. Okay, so here we're not talking about visually emphasizing, we're just talking about meaning wise, emphasize that. So if you're trying to add more meaning, more emphasis to a particular word, then you want to wrap it in an EM tag. And then, of course, after the fact, then you can style that, whatever that EM tag is, associated with, you can style that to be either bold text or a different color text. Okay, but here, don't think EM is tied to style; it's more to the meaning. Okay, strong is also very similar to EM. You want to say that this word is very strong in nature. Versus small, here I'm not a fan of the name of this tag, but it just means that this is a very weak word, or very little emphasis. Okay, so then you would anything that has weak meaning or lesser meaning, you would maybe wrap in a small tag. Okay, so here's just some examples. For example, I love to eat hamburgers. I want to emphasize that love. Again, I'm a vegetarian now, so that's not true anymore. Temptations. But yeah, here I love. You want to emphasize that love word. Here, elephants, okay, are becoming extinct. So here you want to emphasize, hey, elephants is what I'm talking about here. Versus here, copyright. Okay, copyright information, that's not too important. So okay, we'll just put in a small tag. Again, don't confuse visual with meaning here. Here, we're not saying that copyright means it's a small text, but it's just some auxiliary information that's not important. And of course, after the fact, we can style it to be teeny if we want. Maybe we even want to style it to be big. Um, Big and in gray. Gray means less important, for example. Okay, but yeah, here tags are all about semantic meaning, adding meaning to our content. Okay, quotes and block quotes for, let's say you have a quote. All right, for example, this beautiful quote here, you want to wrap it in a quote tag, or this very long quote here, you want to wrap it in a block quote tag. Okay, you have a time tag for wrapping dates. Let's say 2011 is a date. You want to wrap up in a time tag. You also have an address tag. I don't know if this is true. Is there an address tag? I think there is. I can double check on W3C or W3schools.com to have a good full tag reference. So I like W3Schools. If you go on that website, you can search for the HTML tags reference, and it'll just list in alphabetical order all the tags. Okay, so address tags. I got this from somewhere, so it should be a tag too. So for example, if you have an address, contact information on your web page, then it's good to put in an address tag. And actually, if you put it in an address tag, then services like Google and stuff, they can better parse your website and automatically, let's say, put your contact information in the search results in those little templates they do sometimes for search results. Okay. Yeah, video tag, let's say for videos, inline videos like YouTube and stuff, you should be wrapping your videos in a video tag. Okay, so that concludes this presentation. So again, like I said, w3schools.com. If you go to /tags, it'll give you a nice full list, alphabetical order of all the tags to your disposal. And again, like I said, in the regular work world, you're not gonna memorize all these. So I always recommend, go to this website, or any reference website, and look at the tags at your disposal when you're trying to write the HTML for your page, so that you can select the most semantic tag for your content. So make the tags. Okay, and finally here is the HTML5. As I mentioned, HTML5 introduced some new semantic tags. So here on this w3schools.com website, it will just tell you, specifically what tags were added in HTML5. Okay, so that is the Semantic HTML Tags Cookbook presentation. Please use it as a reference, and thank you very much.